Can your family, friends, and loved ones come on the cruise ship to visit you? How long can they stay for? Can they live on the ship with you? Can they come to the crew bar with you? Hey, what's up guys? My name is Jay Alexander and welcome to another fun-filled episode of Ship Life, where I try to inform, educate, and entertain you guys in the world that is ship life. So in today's episode, I'm going to answer probably one of my most frequently asked questions, which is, what's it like and what's the process as far as bringing friends and family on board the cruise ship with you? Can they live with you? Are they allowed to go to the back areas like the crew bar, stuff like that? I'm going to be answering all those questions and a little bit more in today's episode. So without further ado, I'm not going to waste any time. Let's go ahead and get started, shall we?
Let's go!
Alright guys, so first and foremost, I just want to say bonjour. That's French, by the way. I'm out here on vacation in France visiting my girlfriend, and then I'm going to go over to Ireland in a couple of days and visit some friends over there from the ship. I just want to let you guys know that, yeah, I've been trying as best I can to keep up with the videos. I know typically I do a Friday and a Sunday edition of Ship Life and Ship Life Stories, but it's going to be a little bit delayed just because I just got here and I've been trying to get everything situated, and there's been so much going on. But anyway, guys, I don't want to ramble on about that. I'm having a good time out here, and I hope you guys are having a good time wherever you are. But on to today's video. So like I said, I'm going to talk with you guys about just bringing family and friends on board the cruise ship. I just want to say this. First of all, guys, just so you know, this is not the Sweet Life on Deck, all right? I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that show from Disney. Maybe you remember Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, which I think was a little bit better show. But anyway, this isn't Sweet Life on Deck where let's say you get to live with your significant other, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. It doesn't work that way. So I'm gonna break all that down and just tell you guys just as far as how it works, how the process goes. Now, the question of can you visit your friends, family, loved one, or vice versa, can they come visit you on the ship? The answer is yes, they are allowed to visit. But of course, there is some fine print and details and paperwork involved to getting all of that done. Now, for example, when I was on the ship during my contracts, I was able to bring my girlfriend on board. I wanted to bring my son. I couldn't just because he's too young to come by himself, and I would have to pay for somebody else to come on board to watch him. And that's the downside to having somebody on board. Typically, you do have to pay, and depending on what cruise line you're with, because that always is a factor, guys. Depending on what cruise line you're working with, it might determine how much you pay or even if you pay. Let's say, for example, it was my first contract is when I brought my girlfriend on board, and she wasn't the price for her ticket wasn't too expensive. I believe I didn't have to pay like the port fees and some other fees or whatever. So, but basically, I had to pay for her own stateroom. So I think it was like $400 or something like that for the week for us to go to Bermuda. We went to Bermuda and we had a good time, and honestly, it was worth it. Now, here's the thing. There is a way to get your family and friends on board for free, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I'm just going to work my way down, so make sure you guys watch the entire video. But basically, in order to get somebody on the ship, there has to be paperwork filed, because I explained in one of my other videos, technically that is, if you go into a stateroom without filing the proper paperwork, wow, I can't even speak today. If you're filing the proper paperwork, then, or if you're not, that is, you will get fired. No questions asked if you go into a stateroom. Now, let's say you do have friends and family on board. You can, a week prior, or maybe it depends on your cruise line, of course, if you file the paperwork maybe a week or a couple weeks out before that family member comes on board, you just have to give them the documentation, the information of that person, not a social security number or anything like that, but their first and last name and their I believe their address, something like that, just to basically show that you actually know those people before they come on board. The cruise director signs it, your manager signs it, and I think a couple other people have to sign it, but after that, you're good. So I was able to do that with my girl, and she got her own stateroom, and I was able to visit her stateroom whenever I wasn't working, okay? Which is not a bad deal. And that's typically how it goes for most crew members when they bring family on board. You can just go to their stateroom whenever you want. Now, there are two ways that they're allowed to come to the crew area, all right? Because technically they're not allowed just right out of the gate. Now, one way is that you can get what's called like a I think it's like a just cruising like documentation, like a badge. So on every cruise line, for the most part, you always have like some kind of identification badge that shows who you are and what department you work in. Like for example, mine, I don't have it on hand with me, but it would show that I was a performer, a principal role character. And if my girl was on board, she would have one similar that would show my cruise line and would say just cruising on it. That way she would be allowed to go to the crew areas and whatnot. But unfortunately, I believe, at least on my line, in order to get that, you had to be either a higher ranking member like an officer, or I think it had to be your second contract, I believe. Which sucked, but I mean, it is what it is. They want to make sure you're not up to some grimy BS, you know what I mean? Like planning to, I guess, be a spy for another cruise line or whatever the case is. Because believe it or not, that stuff happens. Now, the other way is that if you happen to have a bigger cabin, if you have what's called an officer cabin, or I think even you can have, like, I think a junior officer cabin, which is slightly smaller, you're allowed to bring at least one family member. I think they have to be immediate family member, that is, too, for your first and second year. You have to, you know, you fill out the paperwork, and they're allowed to stay in the room with you. And on top of that, you don't pay, all right? You don't have to pay for that person. Nobody has to pay. I think, actually, you have to pay, I think the port fee is like $50 or something like that, which isn't much. But now that I think about it. But either way, that's not bad as opposed to paying for a whole stateroom cabin. But pretty much your family, your friends, your loved ones can stay in that room. And as far as the amount of time, nobody can live with you. Like I said, this is not the Suite Life on Deck. Unfortunately, you can't have your children, your husband, your wife, or whatever. You can't have them living with you on the ship. They're not working. On my cruise line, the max amount of time, which by the way was Norwegian, NCL, the max amount of time you can that a guest can stay on, I believe, stay on is about 3 weeks. I think 21 days, something like that. They can stay up to 3 weeks if they're not just a regular guest. If they're there and they actually have the paperwork that they're there to visit a crew member, they can only stay for 3 weeks, and that's it. No questions asked. If after 3 weeks they have to get off the ship, and I think they have to stay off for like 30 days before they can board back on. It just avoids the idea of somebody basically living on the ship. Whether you're paying for it or not, you're still getting it at a discounted rate, right? So that's pretty much how it works. Now, I think I've pretty much covered everything. I don't want to ramble on too much. Anyway, guys, sorry that I haven't put up a post lately. I know this is a Friday and a Sunday, but again, it's going to be just a little bit delayed, but I'll make sure I get that up for you guys. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I'm going to make this as quick as I can. I hope you guys are doing well, all my Ship Life people. By the way, if you guys want to check out what I have going on here in Europe, just please follow my my personal YouTube channel that I just started. I'll leave the link down below. Make sure you guys check that out. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, as always, follow my Instagram, or you can hit up my email, which I'll also list below. Just hit me up whenever, all right? I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I will see you guys maybe in another day or two when I post my Ship Life Story episode. But until then, I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.